to all my netdeckers. The Rare Hunter is back, and I'm here to talk about ProQuest Season 3. This video is for all the meta slaves. Today we're going to be talking about how I picked a deck for ProQuest Season 3 and what that deck is. And spoiler, it's just going to be Oldhim. This is a tool, this is actually fabtcg, and they created a tool that is just a matchup grid of games played on Talishar, just aggregated data. There's some pretty interesting things that you can glean from this, but overall, I used it as like a quick way to kind of gauge what decks were good in the meta and what their rough matchups was. And from there, I just pick a hero that is good for my local meta. The quick disclaimer is that I'm not going to be playing in ProQuest Season 3 because ELO will be used for invitation for the first ProQuest of the year, or actually the only ProQuest of the year. And I think I'm pretty much locked in already through constructed ELO from Worlds, so probably not going to be playing. The rewards incentives this season is a lot lower. There's no cold foil prizes or anything. It's just, I mean, there's a gold cold foil, but there's not like a cold foil hero or anything cool like that. So I'm just going to give, some of my local teammates opportunities to compete and win a ProQuest for themselves. But today we're going to be looking at this chart really quick. I decided on Oldhim, obviously because it was like a high win rate deck, but the decks that were good during Worlds are still represented right now. Decks like Bravo, Briar, Dromai, Fi, and Icelander are still, the highest win rate decks. There's also heroes that are like starting to pick up in popularity, like Lexi, and Doranthea is doing pretty well right now. Dash is doing a lot worse than I thought she would be doing with the new some of the new cards that she got. But this chart takes data from all of the players, all of the games played. So potentially some of the data is not completely what you would expect or accurate, but I think overall it gives a good general idea of what the meta is like. So between Bravo and Oldhim, so cool thing is you can kind of just filter by these two heroes. I actually practiced with both heroes, and basically I had very similar results for win rates like this, where Oldhim might be a little bit better than Briar, but Bravo beats Oldhim. And then Oldhim has some randomly higher matchups like Kano or Fi, but like Bravo would be better against Dromai. So for me, my meta had a few more Briars, so I've decided to go with Oldhim, and then I'm going to be showing you guys my updates from World. But before that, make sure you guys like and subscribe, leave a comment, say hello. So let's jump into the deck. So here we are. I made some changes after Worlds, learned some stuff, did a little more testing. The first thing you might notice is I'm only running Mage Master boots, and I'm not running a defensive boots besides Norun. I felt that Ironhide boots was not very efficient when I was playing with it. I noticed that like when you're playing an aggro style with Oldhim, or just like Oldhim in general nowadays, when you're not trying to full fatigue someone, if you're playing Stalagmite, it's very inefficient to be pitching a blue for crown. So you're not going to be crowning very often. And so like getting even value, I guess, with Ironhide plus crown feels pretty bad. In general, I would even say Iron Rod has been testing better into most of those matchups like Fi. So, but I did try Mage Master boots, and this was something that my opponent played against me at Worlds. It was an Oldhim mirror match, and Mage Master boots was very impressive. And I think this is like old Bravo tech as well. So all you do is just Mage Master boots into Tome of Fyendal, gives Tome of Fyendal go again, and you basically draw 2 cards from Tome of Fyendal, gain anywhere from 4 or 5 life, and then you just hit them with something big. I also tested this into Fi, and some of the other decks. And this was just like fine. Like the Mage Master Tome combo was really powerful. Sometimes I didn't need it, and it's like sometimes I beat Fi without it, and sometimes I get to play it and I gain life. It just felt like it was good either way. So this combo actually made my Guardian matchup felt like slightly better as well. So overall, I think Mage Master Boots has been something that I've been really enjoying, and I think what I'll be playing moving forward for now. Other than that, the equipment are pretty much all the same. So moving on to the deck, I swapped out Crush the Weak for Sink Belows. I know. I said, no defense reactions. But I think after Worlds, like, Crush the Weak was pretty good against Fi in that, like, Worlds meta where I expected to play against several Fis. I think Fi was going to be the most represented deck. That deck was slanted more towards that meta. After playing against some of the other decks, I think, like, I made my deck a little soft to the Guardian Mirror specifically, and, like, just random decks like Dorinthia, without any defense reactions. Defense reactions aren't the worst. Like, Sink Below is just an above rate card, so I've decided to add some back. Crush the Weak was pretty much only good for Fi, and it felt like I was doing pretty good into Fi once I learned how to play that matchup. Like, the pummel into an Ice React the next turn was, like, really key, and I can still do that right now. It'll be less consistent, but I also think, like, Sink Below is still a fine card against Fi, so I don't think I'm missing out too much by not playing Crush the Weak anymore, but I also kind of, like, even out my matchup spreads against Briar, against, Bravo, Oldhim, Dorinthia, all the decks. So I think this is better for the ProQuest meta, where it's like people will play whatever kind of decks that they like, and some of the other decks that are less represented will also be, better. And Sink Below is pretty good against kind of just generic decks. Other than that, I swapped out the two outmuscles. One Zealous Belting and one for Rouse the Ancients. I think I still wanted the 8 go again, which is, like, pretty important. I think most of my deck choice are based off of, like, ratios of what I want in my deck. I think 8 to 9 go again cards are pretty important for your bad matchups. But Zealous Belting, one key thing about this is that if Icelander hits you with a ice card from the arsenal after you play it, you can still pay through the Frostbite and Winter's Weldem. Whereas if you are if you play Outmuscle and then they give you a Frostbite, if you don't have a Tunic trigger, then maybe they stop you from using Winter's Well as well. So that's pretty devastating. And I think, like, this is just a small hedge. I think Outmuscle is still pretty good, and I also have, like, less Dromai players locally. So, like, there was just several incentives for me to move away from Outmuscle for now, and just go back to the tried and true, add another Zealous Belting. The Rouse the Ancients was actually added because I like that it was a blue. It was a blue that I didn't have to side out if I didn't want to. And Outmuscle being a red, it felt like it was a little more limiting. So Rouse the Ancients kind of gives you, like, a little extra utility, just being a blue and also potentially some go again. The other reason I added Rouse the Ancients back in was because I added Pulverize. Pulverize was just a card that I added for the Guardian Mirror match, and randomly you can just it's just very effective in terms of, like, the damage it deals. Deals a ton of damage, and then they also deal less damage back to you. And also, it's a 1-card reveal for Rouse the Ancients, so there's a little bit of synergy going on there. But Pulverize can, be a different card as well. I just decided to use this slot as my Guardian hedge. Other than that, the main thing was I wanted to keep 15, like, the 15 6-poppers for blues. So your Macho Grande, Disabled, Cranial Crush, Thunderquake, and Glacial. And I wanted to keep at least 15 blue ice cards. I wanted to play more, but I had to find room to cut stuff for other cards. trying to make your deck kind of like good against the field is pretty hard, but this is my proposed stock list still. So what I did was add another Blizzard, kind of like simplified my tech ice cards that I tried at Worlds. They're all fine. I just felt like, I wanted to make my Briar matchup a little better. So I just added the Hypothermias back in. The one thing about Hypothermia is sometimes it's really bad. Like, it doesn't do anything. But sometimes it is a one card answer, like a card comeback mechanic against Briar. And I felt like having that was better than, not having it. And so it just has a high ceiling with a low floor. But Hypothermia is over some of like the Cold Snaps and Polar Blasts I played. So these are my 15 blue ice cards: Channel, Hypothermia, Winter's Grasp, Winter's Bite, and then your 2 Blizzard plus 1 Icequake. Still don't want to play 3 Blizzard because I don't want to draw multiples. But I do admit that this card is really powerful, especially against like Belittle on a Fi when they have like 2 other reds in their hand or whatever. Pretty powerful. I think it's not nearly as good as Icelander. Icelander can give them a Frostbite as well, and then like combine that with another Frostbite from their arsenal. This is not the same. Like, I would not play 3 Blizzard in Oldhim. But I do think like 2 Blizzard, just so I can see it more often against those matchups against Briar and Fi when I need it. These have huge upsides, but also huge downsides. So that leaves me with around 10 to 11 blue slots left to play with. To me, I always think that Terra Sunder is very, like, you want to max out on this if you want to win the Guardian Mirror match if you're playing Sledge. If you're not playing Sledge, I think you can cut to 2. That's totally fine. But I like 3. So 3 of these. I have the 2 Rouse the Ancient still. And let's see what else. I added a Heart of Fandle. I think this card is pretty good. I've seen some other Oldhim lists play it. And I think overall, when my opponent played it against me at Worlds and they gained like 2 life off of it through like a couple cycles, it felt like it was pretty good. Randomly, if you're not blocking as well, like if you're playing just like an aggro style, Heart of Fandle gaining you 1 life is pretty clutch. So added this in, and then we actually took out, I think we went down to 5 pummels instead of 6. I already had a yellow pummel. But I think these are my 11 other blue cards that I'm playing. So let's see, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Oh yeah, and the 3 Autumn's Touch. Autumn's Touch, probably you can cut into some numbers of it, but I think this card is so good in the Guardian Mirror match. And also it helps you against Rosetta Thorn, where during the late game, if we're only playing AB1 plus Crown and we don't have our arsenal, Autumn's Touch can help you prevent that 2 arcane damage from Briar. So this is just a really good card still, and I think these are just the numbers I like. For the rest of this video, I'm probably just gonna go over some of the sideboard guide that I made. This deck will be posted in the description, and you guys can use and just like write down all the sideboard guide if you guys want to. I'll go over some of it right now. Some of the important ones that I think you'll see most often. But yeah, so let's see. Bravo and Oldhim, actually. All I do is I side out the 2 Blizzards, 2 non-blocks. So you have 1 card that doesn't block anymore in your deck, but this card will gain you life, and then the rest is just pretty much all cards that you're gonna block with. Because I know I said like it doesn't matter like if you present more cards, it might be worse for you. If you're playing Sledge, you just need a blue and even a red to attack, or a blue with Tunic. So I'm going to risk those 4 card red hands and just full block or something, or like block 3 in Arsenal. But basically, just putting in 68 cards just in case that the deck goes to fatigue. It seems like it's a safe bet. And Sledge helps you fatigue them anyway. So overall, this is just a plan. Let's see, Briar. I still like Stalagmite. I think Rampart is fine. I've seen some people say that you can go Rampart and fatigue the Briar. I think that's a reasonable plan. I think what you could do is also like trade damage early and then pressure them so that you guys get to a low life total. And then once the Briar has to start blocking, that's when their hands are just like, that's when they'll crumble. So I play a little more aggressively to try to reach that end game state sooner. Instead of trying to like fatigue them. I think it's really hard to full fatigue like 3 channel Mount Heroics. So tomorrow, Pulse of Candle hold. But I think Briar does run out of, attack action cards eventually. So both strategies are viable. But this is it. The main thing is no Rune Boots, so that means you can't play your Tome of Findle. No access to the combo, but the deck should still behave like how you would expect it to. Dromai is another common matchup, I think. I decided to not play the Mage Master Tome combo and no Sync Belows because you're going to be the aggressor. I think Mage Master Tome actually might be correct over the Northern Boots, but when I was making the guide, I was kind of thinking like, if somehow it goes to the late game, you know what I mean? Like, Northern Boots might be helpful. Other than that, you just have all your big attacks. You're going to be wanting to hit them in the face mostly, just try to race them. Winter's Wail is really good against them because they just, what's it called? Their hands can be really awkward. Sometimes they only play like 8 to 11 blues, and a Winter's Wail, 1 Frostbite can ruin like a 4 red hand. So that's kind of the plan. You only care about swinging into Chromai and Mirror Guy, and also like Passing Mirage. But for the rest of it, you can like break their dragons pretty easily and then just hit face. Let's see. Fi. We all know how the Fi matchup goes. I think the easiest thing to do is just try to pummel them so that they go to 3 cards. And then on their turn, when they have 3 cards, you ice react them so that their 3-card hand is just basically 2 cards. Very ineffective. You can continue to keep the pressure on and, trade better than they can. And if you don't give them a chance to activate Mask of the Pouncing Lynx, you should be like ending the game at like 30 life sometimes. Let's see. Icelander, this is another popular matchup. As I mentioned before, Zealous Belting, so that if they give you a Frostbite during your turn, you can still swing through with Whale. I saw that you can actually play 2 to 3 epots, Arcane Lantern. If you're having trouble with Icelander, that's not a bad idea as well. I think Craig Pollock won the AGE Open with that strategy against Icelander. But that's like a more defensive strategy. My strategy is still just like pummel and like being aggressive, hitting face, and yeah. Winter's Will is, giving them a Frostbite is pretty good. Even Icelander, because sometimes all they want to do is just like hit you back with a Wounded Bull, but that's very difficult if you have a Frostbite, right? Also, Ice React would be pretty useful against them as well. Again, like the same, if they Wounded Bull you with 3 cards, right? They have 1 card left in hand. You could just trade damage, block a little, Ice React them, and they don't have an arsenal. And when they don't have an arsenal, it's a lot easier to play into them. There's Kano. Kano, you're probably just going to be really aggressive. Try to pummel them. I actually like going first against Kano to force them to decide, like, do I just block or do I use Kano ability? Sometimes they just whiff, and so that's okay. You'll get to deal extra damage to them. Like, ideally, your first turn is like a dominated Glacial or something, you know what I mean? Or a Mantra Grande. So I want to be as aggressive as possible in this matchup. And again, if you played the Arcane Lantern for the Icelander matchup, that will also come in handy for Kano. I guess lastly, there's Lexi. Lexi, you can just play Rampart. I think the Oldhim is just really good against Lexi anyway. So Rampart is pretty good for blocking on hits if they're playing the zero cost version, or if they're playing like the ice version that won Battle Harden. I want to say the most recent Battle Harden. I don't really remember which one it was. It's also good for blocking breakpoints because you get to use Crown of Seeds, you get to use Rampart, and you still have one resource left over to pay for Chilling Ice Vein if it hits anyway, right? So I think these two are great. Stalagmite is also really good because sometimes Lexi has like perfect mana where it's like they have just enough resource to pay for what they want to do, and then one extra Frostbite might actually screw them over. That's also fine. It's just Rampart makes it so that you can switch to like a fatigue game mid game really easily, and I think like it's just like the safer play. But I think Stalagmite is also totally fine. Yep. So I think that's pretty much all I have for today. Thanks everyone for tuning in. Make sure to like and subscribe. If you guys have any questions, feel free to message me on Twitter or leave them in the comments below. And again, this deck profile will be, this deck link will be in the description. So if you guys want to copy any of these matchup spreads, these matchup sideboard, you guys can do that pretty easily. Yeah, that's it. Thanks for watching, guys. I'll talk to you guys later.